Hello and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fort Wayne's 2018 Generous Conversations video. Some of you missed the in-person Generous Conversations session, so we created this short video to help you become an informed pledge drive participant. So let's start. Let's start with a reflection question. How do these words on this slide describe your feelings about your financial commitment to our spiritual community? Do you feel rewarded or joyful, entitled, resentful, satisfied or controlled, empowered, generous? Are there perhaps other words that describe or characterize how you feel when you give to our community? Keep these in mind as we move through this video. So some of you might be wondering, why do we do a pledge drive? Well, we have to, it's part of our bylaws, but also these funds provide the majority of funds required to continue our mission. The process goes as this. Committee chairpersons complete budget requests in the late spring and submit them to the Finance Committee. And the Finance Committee has the arduous task of looking at what has been requested and what is feasible. And ultimately, the board and the finance chair determines which areas to expand or reduce in order to meet the budget. So where does our money come from at the UUCFW? Well, we're nearly totally self-funded. 78% of our budget came from pledges this past year and the year prior to that. Pledges are far and away our primary source of income. But as you can see by the graph, we also get about 8% from annuity and rents, such as rental to the Bajans or other hall rentals. We also get 5% from our Sunday collections, and our fundraising comes from a variety of sources, from Scrip, from Kroger Rewards, Amazon Smile, the auction is in there, as well as the garage sale. And then finally, we have about 2% coming from gifts, which include memorial donations, Wellspring donations, the Minister's Benevolence Funds, and things like that. Where does our money go? Well, our congregational priorities definitely drive how we spend our money. 44% we spend on worship, and that includes the director of music and pianist, other worship-related costs, and it also includes 50% of Reverend Misty Dawn, Kirsten, and janitorial salaries. Lifespan and religious education includes the director of RE, nursery care and training. The church community, 27% of our budget, includes pastoral care, fellowship, and the Pathways to Membership class. And our wider world at 13% includes Wellspring, the UUA, or the Unitarian Universalist Association Annual Program Fund, which we used to call dues, and also our commitment to interfaith and global issues, which we often contribute to. So here are our 2018 projections. The requests came in at $254,150, and the Finance Committee reviewed all sources of funds and looked at the expenses and came up with an achievable budget of $231,400. Given that our pledge dollars typically equal 78% of our budget, that comes out to be $178,500 that needs to be raised during this pledge drive period. So let's look at the rest of our projected income. Miscellaneous income at $7,600 does include the designated funds that were raised this year for Reverend Misty Dawn's sabbatical, as well as special contributions. The annuity and rent of $20,800 includes a rent increase from the Bajans, who rent our facilities regularly, as well as an increase due to being a polling place in the 2018 elections. Fundraising is estimated at $13,500, and the Sunday plate, which includes gifts from both members and guests, is projected at $11,000. How does the Finance Committee and the board come up with a projected budget? Well, they start with the ways that we must support our ministry. These are the non-negotiable expenses and the programs that make us who we are. So it includes things like our mortgage and our insurance and our fees related to various things like trash and snow removal. We have utilities to keep the lights on and the building at the proper temperature, and maintenance of our equipment and our building and grounds. We have office expenses like email and telephone and office supplies. We also need to pay our minister. We need administrative staff. Kirsten does all sorts of things, including bookkeeping, office management type duties, and secretarial duties. And of course, we need to keep our building clean. And lastly, we have sabbatical expenses this year related to when Reverend Misty Dawn is on her sabbatical. So in addition to the fixed expenses on the last slide, there are programs that we choose to support to enhance our shared ministry of this congregation. For instance, we choose to have music during our services. We choose to have a religious education program for the children of our congregation and our church family. We also choose to have worship speakers from outside the church to come in and add to our Sunday experience. And we also believe that it's important to provide faith formation opportunities to adults for programs such as Sacred Seekers. Unfortunately, the 2018 budget does not allow us to do everything we really had hoped to do. We believe in fair compensation, but we were forced to cut raises in half. We had hoped to expand the hours for our Director of Religious Education and provide additional training opportunities for RE volunteers, but we didn't expand those hours, and the training budget was nearly eliminated. We cut about $5,000 from the equipment and maintenance requests, and we were also unable to fund a new leadership development program that would have helped our board and our minister become more proactive in working towards the long-term goals of our congregation. And lastly, we reduced the sabbatical fund by about $1,100. So our pledge drive goal of $178,500 represents a 3% increase in overall pledge drive funds. And this will allow us to sustain an active and growing congregation. However, if we had more than a 3% increase, we'd be able to nourish an even healthier and more robust beloved community. We recognize that some pledges will increase, some will decrease, some will stay the same, and we are likely to have new pledges too from new members. But overall goal that we have is very achievable, and depending on the ability and the generosity of our members, we might even surpass it. We can do it. So let's return to that question I posed earlier. How do you feel about contributing to our spiritual community? My hope is that this video empowered you with information to help you understand the impact that your pledge and other people's pledges have on our congregation. Our hope is that you feel joy and excitement as you make your financial commitment to UUCFW and provide the resources needed to nourish our common vision. Wrapping up, your pledge drive card is mailed to you with a letter. Please read that letter that accompanies it. The final date to get your pledge in is October 8th. Please either mail, phone, or email your pledge in by October 8th. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to contact Mike Google, who is our Pledge Drive Team Chair this year. As we close this time together, please join me in reading in unison our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is our law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you for enriching our congregation with your membership and your financial contribution.